can we talk about ivermectin?
Yeah, sure.
So I covered it, what they did in Mexico City, and ivermectin seems to be a drug that not only treats it, but it will prevent you from getting it.
This, ladies and gentlemen, is what Jimmy Dore is recommending that you take, but do you think he did any research? Do you think he checked to see if smart people like at the FDA or CDC recommended this?
I think we need studies. We need legitimate studies, and I don't know how that happens, because the problem with this argument, this conversation is, you'll have people saying, I've used this on my patients, like Dr. Pierre Corey, who's been on this podcast, and I 100% believe him, and I support him, and I'm not saying that he's not telling the truth. The problem is, I think in order to state something emphatically, like this is what we need to do, this is the best treatment, we need studies. Right? This is the only way you find out. And, well, who's going to fund these studies?
Who's going to fund a study?
And the problem is it's a generic drug.
That's it. No one wants it.
It's a drug that's been around for 40 years, has a long history of use. And also, there's a difference between using it as a prophylactic, so using it as a preventative measure, which is one of the things that Dr. Pierre Corey talked about on this podcast. I forget where they used this, but it was there was hundreds of doctors, and then there was a percentage of them that used ivermectin as a prophylactic, and there's a percentage that did not. The percentage that did not, half of the doctors roughly, or half of the healthcare workers got COVID. The percentage that did use it as a prophylactic, 100% did not get it. Now, I don't know if they got lucky. This is why you need a large study, and it's a long-term study. Maybe, I don't know, what was their job different than the people who got it? I don't know. That's the problem.
Yeah.
So when I'm a fucking comedian and a cage fighting commentator. When I'm talking about very important issues, I have to hedge my opinions on these things.
I know.
It's tricky.
Here's a crazy idea. How about you get the vaccine?
But in an environment where people aren't allowed to talk or question things, well, for instance.
Here's a crazy idea. How about you show respect for people who actually do research? Like the people at the Food and Drug Administration, FDA. Just a thought.
My doctor. So when I got the vaccine, I got the double. And
which one did you get?
I got the Moderna because I have an underlying health problem. I've talked about it before on the show.
We have talked about it, yeah.
And so my doctor, because people are like, why did you trust the government? No, I don't trust the government. You trust Big Pharma? No, I don't trust Big Pharma. I trusted my doctor.
Right.
My doctor who saved my life. And said that because of your thing, you should get it because we don't know how it's going to affect you, and you blah, 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 blah. So I got it. And then, the symptoms you get from it, they never went away for me.
What were your symptoms?
So I had body aches, flu-like fever. I had joint pain. I had a stiff neck.
Have you tried going in an ice bath for 20 minutes? Sorry.
Yeah.
So how long did it?
I'm still cold. I'm cold.
Just warming up now. It's fucking
tell.
2 hours into this podcast.
I can tell.
Is how long did it last? How long did your symptoms last?
So on April 17th, I got the second jab, and I just never got better.
Was it immediate? Before after the first jab, did you have side effects?
Yes, but they went away. And then the second jab.
How long did they last after the first shot?
I don't remember, but because
a couple days.
Yeah, it was like maybe a week. I think a week, and then the second time they just never went away, and I was like, what is going on? Because I would get these waves of exhaustion a couple times a day, and then my producer had the same stiff. At the fifth week, I got a stiff neck. He got a stiff neck, and my wife got a stiff neck, and we all got the stiff neck on the side where we got the shot. So I got it on this side, they got it on that side. And then I looked it up, and it turns out stiff neck is a thing that people experience from the jab. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that. They don't tell you that. And so that's common. I'm like, okay. And then it spread to the whole neck. Okay. Now, my producer and my wife, it went away. Their stiff necks went away. Mine didn't. So anyway, I tweeted about it. I tweeted like, hey, this is just to let everybody know, this is what's happened. This is my reaction to the vaccine.
Yeah.
And because when people started to come on me, like call me anti-vax, and I'm like, no, I got the vax.
Right.
I got it. I go, when people have a reaction to an experimental vaccine that is not FDA approved, you're supposed to not suppress the reactions. You're supposed to ask people what the reactions are so we can make the vaccines better.
If you want to talk about this, talk about it, but make sure you do your research. For example, the FDA is against ivermectin, and it's also toxic in certain breeds of dogs, like collies, for example. So, do some research if you're going to talk about this.
That's a thing that when Jen Psaki's talking about misinformation online and combating misinformation, she distributed misinformation.
Of course.
Because she said that it's approved by the FDA and their gold standard.
She said that?
She said that.
It is not approved. When you go to get the vaccine,
pull that up. Let's make sure that she said it. I'm 99% positive she said that, because I remember reading that going, you can't say that when you're the White House press secretary, because that's not a true statement. It's approved for emergency use authorization because we're in the middle of a pandemic.
Right.
We're
in an emergency.
Yes, but it's not an FDA approved.
Joe, when you go get the jab, they give you a piece of paper, and on it in bold black letters, it says, this is not an FDA-approved vaccine.
Right.
And they go, you see that? And I'm like, yeah. They go, you okay with that? Yeah, I guess. My doctor said I'm supposed to be here. And
Did you find it?
Yeah, I found the transcript of it. I didn't find the video.
Well,
okay.
I'm pretty sure I saw the video, but I definitely have read the transcript, and I want this to be accurate, because it's a big accusation.
This is what she said here when someone asked about the misinformation.
What is this from?
Facebook.
Whitehouse.gov.
Yeah.
Okay. So more than just a competition about vaccines, the risk, impact. Okay, here it is. Misleads the public by falsely alleging that mRNA vaccines are untested and thus risky, even though many of them are approved and have gone through the gold standard of the FDA approval process. That's right. That's not true.
So she's saying many of the mRNA vaccines.
Right. There's only two that are mRNA vaccines. That's messenger RNA. That is the Pfizer and the Moderna. That's the ones that we use in America. The Johnson & Johnson it's an adenovirus vaccine. It's different, as is the AstraZeneca, right? The AstraZeneca, I believe, is very similar to the Johnson & Johnson. They're different. But the point is...
Yeah, the Johnson & Johnson uses the old technology, and the Moderna and Pfizer, they use the ones that was developed by DARPA.
Yeah, but the point is, it's not FDA approved.
No, because that takes a while.
So if she's saying that... Right.
Isn't that misinformation?
It is.
Seems like it.
And if it says it when you get the jab and it says it in bold print.
Okay, so I just Googled COVID vaccine mRNA gold standard, and I got this from WebMD, which is very reputable. Gold standard study confirms mRNA vaccines prevent infection. I mean, how's it possible that Joe Rogan makes so much money and he's that bad at doing a Google search? It just blows my mind. This is just so wrong.
And so your experience, even though this is your personal experience and you did get vaccinated, people are so rabid online about this.
Oh my God.
It is the most divisive subject, I think, ever since Trump. It really is. It is a nutty, divisive subject. And people just get furious about it. And they're furious if anybody talks about any negative side effects, even if it's accurate.
Well, that, or perhaps, maybe people are upset that experts are being drowned out by some guy who can't even do a Google search. Just think about that.
About it, just because I wanted to see if other people had this experience.
Right.
And, maybe it's just me. Maybe it's not. So I got contacted by lots of people, same experience, and I got contacted by a doctor who's leading a bunch of other doctors, a group of doctors, and studying this, and they just submitted a paper on people about the vaccine, right? And so he tells me over a DM, this is what we think is happening. This is a spike protein. You're suffering from a spike protein thing, and blah, blah, blah. And go to see your doctor, and hopefully your doctor will work with us and give me ivermectin and fluvoxamine I'm taking for inflammation in my brain.
You have inflammation in your brain?
Well, that's because it causes inflammation. So the spike proteins cause inflammation. And so they did some kind of blood test on me, and they said, yeah, you got the thing.
Was it a D-dimer test? Is that what it was?
Joe, you got me. But
Okay.
they said, you have the same, you're right where a long haul COVID person is, like whatever the markers were. I had the same thing. You're right there. And so I go to my doctor and I start to explain to my doctor about what this other doctor told me. And my doctor says, oh, I'm treating 5 people just like you. And one of them is a neurosurgeon and one of them is a nurse. And they were afraid to talk about their symptoms because they were afraid to be ostracized and stigmatized. And I'm like, what a messed up situation we're in this culture,
right?
When they politicize medicine, where doctors and medical professionals are afraid to talk about their symptoms.
Let's not forget, over 600,000 people have died from COVID. And, here's the thing, the mRNA vaccine, it's just the spike protein. The COVID virus, it's the spike protein and everything else. So I think it's fair to say, if Jimmy had caught COVID, his reaction would have been much, much worse. And who's stopping him from talking about it? And last but not least, if he is going to talk about it, how about do some research? Don't do this conspiracy nonsense.
Out lawsuits that they've lost for hiding information about test results, about things that have happened during studies. And these same people are now ignoring any possible side effects.
It's nuts. So, how do we make it better? How do we know maybe some people, that suppression of data is not the way you improve a vaccine. The suppression of people's symptoms and data, that is not, and in anything, it's not how it works. No. But that's how they want it to work because of Trump. Because if you say, it's just crazy.
It is crazy.
Even that hydrochloroquine, right?
Hydroxychloroquine.
Hydroxychloroquine that Trump was touting, and they were like, he's nuts because he's touting it. I didn't know anything about it. But then all of a sudden studies came out that say, hey, no, that actually has been helping.
Again, Jimmy, if you just did a little bit of research, you'd find these things. Hydroxychloroquine doesn't benefit hospitalized COVID-19 patients. Enough with these conspiracy theories. Just do research.
So now we have contradicting studies, right? It was a Newsweek. I wasn't making it. I didn't pull it out of some crazy thing. It's an establishment mainstream news thing. I'm pretty sure it was Newsweek. And I tweeted it out and I said, hey, can we stop politicizing medical science? Can we get back to just doing medical science again and asking questions?
How much damage did Trump do on the one conversation he had? Do something like cleaning, something with you.
So much damage.
You do
put bleach right in the. It's so
light.
Much damage.
You can kill it with light. It's going to be a miracle. Like that one thing where people are like, "What the fuck is?" Because he was riffing.
Yes,
he was clearly riffing.
Clearly riffing.
He didn't prepare for this. He probably just got done eating a fucking double cheeseburger, and he's like,
"No, Joe, that wasn't the only incident. There were so many lies. It's not even funny. America was -- in COVID deaths under Trump." And, I don't think it's cool to minimize that.
Because
he's a salesman. He's just a big...
Right, because he's so divisive, like, everyone is still... It's almost like... Do you know, like, if you got in a fight with someone, like maybe your neighbor, and then you got in your car and there was a road incident, and you're like, get the fuck out of here! You're already so ramped up.
Yeah.
Because of the fight you got in with your neighbor.
Yeah.
This is what the whole country's like.
That's a great analogy.
That's what it's like. It's like the whole country just got in a fight with the neighbor. Like he's putting his trash can on your lawn.
Yeah.
Like, hey, you fuck. Keep him on your own side, you piece of shit. And then you're in your car. Fuck! And this is like the whole country is like at 8 out the door. Out the door in their car, already at 8, on a scale 1 to 10. They're already ready to go. And so whether it's the vaccine, or whether it's the border wall, or whether it's kids in cages, or what the fuck, whatever it is, everybody's so goddamn angry and ready to go. And then you deal with the economic crisis that a giant percentage of the country just went through over the past year, and then losing loved ones to this fucking disease and all this chaos and and so many people who I've never experienced like high levels of adversity, and all of a sudden they're confronted with it. If you've played it safe your whole life, you've really never done anything risky, never taken any chances, you've had a regular life with a regular job, you play it safe, and then all of a sudden now you're fucked and you're confronted with a perhaps deadly disease that might take you out, and you got all these other problems in the world, and everybody's like, and they don't have the coping skills. They don't have the ability to handle these things, and that's where we find ourselves as a country right now. And it's weird because then you have that with the echo chamber aspect of social media, where everybody's just looking for positive reinforcement of their own ideas and confirmation bias. It's wild.
What's wild is that these two act like they're being silenced, but, God forbid they should do some research. Seriously, do some research, or shut up.